Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, the best place to be wherever you are on your wealth journey right now. Today I wanted to share with you the top 3 things that I do every single Christmas to save money. You may have seen my video from a few weeks ago about how to have the best Christmas possible in 2020 given the terrible year that most of us have had. But what I'm doing today is to talk about my 3, what I would call really my 3 habits that I have every single year to save money at Christmas time. Number 1, I always shop in cheaper supermarkets. So we're talking Aldi and Lidl and places like that, the cheaper end of the supermarkets rather than the high end like Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose and so on. Now this might sound a little bit counterintuitive because we all want the best Christmas that we possibly can have. But to be perfectly clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with budget supermarket food. In fact, it can be just as good, if not better, than the M&S and Waitrose food. So for example, I'll always do a lot of Christmas shopping in Aldi. Aldi is brilliant for Christmas stuff, and actually what you'll find is that most years Aldi Christmas products will be featured in a lot of magazines. So one of my favourite magazines to get at Christmas time is BBC Good Food magazine, and this, along with other magazines of this type at Christmas time, normally have their top supermarket foods. So in BBC Good Food, for example, they have what they call their Christmas Taste Awards. And if we have a look at their Christmas Taste Awards this year, we'll find that Aldi comes top for both their Christmas pudding and the amazing sounding chocolate praline bomb. In fact, I really rate Aldi Christmas puddings anyway. Last year I had a big party, and one of my favourite things to do is to introduce people to Aldi food that have not tried it before, because there seems to be this stigma around sort of lower budget supermarkets where people think that because it's cheap it must be terrible tasting food or something like that. But actually, on the contrary, last year I had this big party and I presented the Aldi Christmas pudding and people couldn't believe that it was from Aldi. It tasted so good. So I always love to do that, to try and change people's minds about these kinds of budget supermarkets, because they are just as good, as I say, if not better, than M&S and Waitrose. In fact, many of you may remember this news article from a year ago where a couple went into Waitrose and found an Aldi label on their packet of roasted vegetables. Because yes, believe it or not, both the cheaper supermarkets and the high-end supermarkets will often use the exact same suppliers. They'll just label everything differently. So the way that I see it is that if we shop at Aldi, we're basically getting the exact same kinds of food as in Waitrose for a fraction of the cost. Now, talking about the stigma surrounding budget supermarkets, I'm from North Oxfordshire. Everybody's terribly middle class here and they would much rather shop in Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose given the opportunity. But we have a fantastic Aldi in Banbury, and I remember years ago when it first opened, probably about 20 odd years ago now, my mum used to work as a nurse at the local hospital, and I remember she went and she would always shop at Aldi and she would always encourage us to do the same because, you know, because obviously it's so cheap. And she used to love it there, the food was excellent, and she went along one day and found a colleague from work shopping there as well. And she bumped into this friend, had a chat with her, and her friend was horrified. She said, "Don't tell anybody from work that you saw me here." You know, i.e. she wouldn't be seen dead shopping at an Aldi, which I think is terrible, don't you? I mean, nowadays, obviously 20 years on, the Aldi car park used to have no cars in it whatsoever. Now it's absolutely full to bursting and there's a sort of queue of cars coming out of the car park because everybody wants to shop there. And thinking about keeping up with the Joneses, well, I'm happy to say that the Joneses now also shop at Aldi and Lidl, so you have nothing to worry about in that respect. So do shop there because it really is a fantastic supermarket. Good habit number 2 is to use exactly the same Christmas decorations every single year. The way I see it is that there's absolutely no point in going out and buying new decorations just because of all the expense every single year. And you can see from my tree here, I've gone for some very classic colours. So what you want to do when you're looking for your decorations is to find classic colours, things like red, gold, green, tartan, all the classic Christmas colours, because they will never ever go out of fashion. You will always find those colours at Christmas time. I remember a few years ago there was a kind of Cadbury purple that came out and everybody was buying these kind of glittery purple things. There was one year when it was all sort of teal and brown, I think it was. So those will go out of fashion very, very quickly, and if you start getting them out again, your tree will immediately start looking a bit dated. Whereas your classic colours like red, gold, green and tartan will never go out of fashion. And I would say that once you've decided on your classic colours, invest in a couple of good sets of quality baubles. If we have a look at the baubles that I have on my tree, these gold ones here are about 15 years old now. I originally bought those from John Lewis. They were quite expensive at the time, but they've stood the test of time, and here we are 15 years later using the exact same baubles, and they look just as good. The red ones as well, I think, were also from John Lewis, and although the cotton thread is breaking a little bit on this one, so you might need to replace the cotton a little bit. But if you look after the baubles, keep the original packaging and pack them away safely every year, then you should have a set of baubles that will last you for a very, very, very long time. I've also got some snowflakes on my tree here. Now the snowflakes are also about 10 years old now, and I've lost the boxes for these ones, and they were quite sort of small and glitter went everywhere, so I've just put these in a freezer bag and keep them in the Christmas box with all the other decorations every year, and they come out looking just as good. I've also got some ribbon, so the ribbon is also a few years old now, and if you get good quality ribbon, I think I just picked this up from the works, it was about £1 a strip of ribbon, and I just keep that every single year, just roll it up nicely and keep it in the Christmas box, and again you can just get it out and use it every single year. What else have I got on my tree? I've got a family of mice that live in the middle of my tree, and these guys come out every single year. They're about 10 years old now. They were given to me as a gift about 10 years ago, and they like living in the tree, so I've just get them out and put them away again. And the star that's at the top of the tree here, that is new. I made that last weekend, and if you remember in the video from a couple of weeks ago, I said that Christmas crafting was a really good idea, and the couple of things I had left to do were to make a star for my tree and a wreath for my front door. So this is the star from the tree, and it's made from cardboard and gold wrapping paper. Probably cost me about £1 to make it, the whole thing, and I'm hoping that if I look after it carefully it will last me a few years as well. Now I'm really interested in your decorations as well, guys. What is the oldest decoration you have? Drop me a comment underneath and let me know. Okay, the third thing I do to save money at Christmas is quite a controversial one here, but it is that I do not buy a real tree. I don't buy a real tree. Now, obviously this is controversial. Loads of you are going to be saying to yourselves, oh no, she doesn't buy a real tree. It's not Christmas without a real tree, surely. And indeed, this year, 2020 in particular, there has been a surge in people buying real trees, which obviously is great for the growers and for the economy and everything else. Normally, apparently, they sell about 8 million real trees in the UK every single year. This year, 2020, they think they'll probably sell about 10 million real trees because people are really wanting to make the best Christmas they possibly can this year, and they're going back to their traditional roots and saying, right, let's get a traditional real tree. In terms of the amount you spend each year, though, actually getting a false tree and using it for many years is much more cost effective than buying a real tree every single year. And a good example of this is going back to my mum again. So she loves to shop at Aldi, as I talked about just now, and about 20 years ago when Aldi first opened in Banbury, Mum went out there at Christmas time, and that particular year she went to Aldi and they were doing Christmas trees, fake Christmas trees, complete with all the decorations and everything. So Mum bought this Christmas tree. It was about £20 along with all the decorations. It all came inclusive as part of the package. I don't think the tree had lights on, but I think she went and bought some lights and popped them on. But the tree and the decorations, the tree lasted for 17 years. She only got rid of it 3 years ago, and the decorations are still going. So if you get something like that, you know, you can use your tree for many years as long as you look after it and package it properly in the year in between Christmases, then it should stand you in very good stead. Now I've got two trees. I've got the thin one, which you'll remember from this video up here, which I posted a couple of weeks ago when I had that tree in my office. And that tree is about 12 years old now as well. And I was looking at some photos of this the other day, and even the lights that I've got on that tree are a good 8 years old. So you don't need to keep buying new decorations every single year, as long as everything still works, and just test it and make sure that it does before you go out rushing out buying new ones. I've also obviously got this nice big tree in the lounge, and this one we bought 3 years ago from B&Q. When we first moved in, we wanted a nice big Christmas on our big new house, so we decided to get another tree, and the tree that was in my office is now in the kitchen. That's where it normally lives at Christmas time, and this big tree is in the lounge. Now this one originally came from B&Q 3 years ago, and it's a pre-lit tree, so all the lights, don't need to worry about buying separate lights because they all come as part of the tree. And the story behind this one, I went to B&Q and got this and brought it home, turned it on, and the lights didn't work. And I was gutted because I was like, oh, this is a brilliant tree. I really want to have this tree. And I went back to B&Q and they said, oh, just bring it back to us and we'll give you a new one. And I thought to myself, well, I don't really want that because this is a fake tree. And if I give it back to them and it's not working, they'll just chuck it in landfill or something. It turned out that it was the fuse that wasn't working and something with the plug socket. And B&Q didn't do the separate fuse and plug. So what I did was I tracked down the company from China that did the fuse and the plug socket and asked them to send me a new one, which they duly did. And I was able to use my tree, and here it is today, 3 years on. Still working, just as good as new. Now, for those of you saying to yourselves, oh, but it's not Christmas without the smell of a real pine tree. Well, actually, I've got this up my sleeve, and this is called Christmas Essence. It's a lovely blend of essential oils, and it includes pine, orange, clove, cedarwood, lemon, peppermint, cassia cinnamon, and nutmeg. So it's a really, really lovely blend of all the Christmas spices. Now I'll pop a link to this in the description, but all you want to do is to pop a few drops in an essential oil diffuser or an incense burner, and hey presto, you have the wonderful smell of Christmas. So those are my 3 Christmas habits to save money at Christmas time. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Do give me a thumbs up underneath if you did enjoy it. Have a watch as well of these 2 videos up next because they will definitely help with your wealth journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and have a great week, guys. Thanks ever so much for watching this one, and I will see you in the next one.